Alright, so this is the subject of this video. It is a 1990 Suzuki DR350 with 1998 suspension and motor. And what's happened is the bolt that holds the shift drum in place, I took it apart and it was broken. So I tried a screw extractor, and the screw extractor broke off inside what was left of the bolt. At which point I pretty much decided the engine was going to have to come out of the bike, split the cases. But I still tried to get through that extractor, and I did eventually, but the shift drum is destroyed at this point, so it is time for a new one. So I will be removing the motor from the bike, and we will be looking at replacing that. Alright guys, so I got the motor out of the bike and into the bin. Got a big mess on the floor. It's time to go order some parts. Alright, so I'm just working on getting the transmission reassembled and cleaned up, and one thing I noticed here is this gear here has the splined collar inside. Let me just press it out here, and if you notice, it's got an oil supply hole. You gotta make sure you line up with the oil supply hole on the output shaft here. Just something to note. Alright, so I got the other DR pushed out of the way, and I've got this one up on the stand. I'm going to put the bottom end back in the frame just because it's easier to torque things up. I've almost got it all back together for the bottom end anyway. And then it's just a matter of getting the jug bored out for my overbore piston, and I can put the back end or the top end back together soon. Alright, so I just got back to the machine shop with my bored out jug. It's the first oversize wiseco piston. It's in there nice now, and we should be good to go for this weekend, I think. Alright, so I was just working on getting the top end back together, and I couldn't get enough slack to get the cam chain over the gear. Now what had happened was, underneath these gears here, the chain had come halfway off the sprocket, and it wasn't giving me enough wiggle room, so I had to take the clutch off and take those gears off and set the chain back in there, and then I was able to get everything timed. One thing to note is this nut here is left-hand thread. It's 27mm left-hand thread, and when you go to put the bolts and the lock plate in the timing gear, you want it to cover that locating pin hole right there so that it can't work its way out. Alright, so I've got about as much as I can done tonight. I've misplaced the plug that goes in here, so it's on order. It'll be probably about a week before I see it here in Canada. So yeah, both side covers are on the bottom end. Cylinder head bolts are torqued. I gotta make a gasket for the cam chain tensioner, and then I can put that in. I can put the starter on, and then once that cam plug shows up, I can put the rocker assembly on. Alright, so did I say 1 week? More like 3. And I didn't even ship it to Canada. I shipped it just to the other side of the Washington border. And it still took 3 weeks to get. But that's beside the point. It's together. The cylinder head, or the rocker cover, is on and torqued. And I'm just cranking it over. I don't know if you'll be able to see in there. Just cranking it over to get some oil pressure. here. It's hard to see because it's so dark, but there is oil at the top of the cylinder head now, so. And that's just cranking it over, no plug, no carb on it. Okay, so I've got the bike put back together enough to run. Got the fuel turned on. Exhaust is on. No seat, no rear brake lever, no shift lever, no chain, but pop the ignition on here. And a couple pumps because it's a pumper. Chokes on. Oh. Come on. No funny noises. Sounds nice and happy. Looking good. No leaks. Perfect. Alright, so I've got everything back on. It's rideable. Shortly after that last clip, I noticed a leak from the alternator cover gasket, so I made a new one. And assuming this little Garmin works okay, I'm going to take a little ride and film it for you guys.